Hey everybody, welcome back to another video. Mark Green here, the Diabetes Diet Guy, bringing you all things diabetes and healthy living. If you haven't done so already, head over to the blog diabetesdietguy.com, where we have a bunch of free information to help guide you along this journey we call healthy living. Now, we have so much information there, so if you've been trying to find the answers to your questions, particularly about managing diabetes, it's all there for you. If, despite your research, you still haven't found the answers you're looking for, we do offer programs and consultancy for people that just need that extra helping hand. Anyway, that's not what you're here for today. You are here to find out the 4 simple steps you can make from today to help lower your blood glucose levels. We're going to explain each one in detail, so without further ado, let's jump right in. Number 1, lose weight. Now, if you're sat there thinking you don't need to lose any weight, the chances are that you are well into your latter years and you haven't developed the disease because of a weight issue. Now, for most people, 90% in fact, of people that have type 2 diabetes, we know develop the condition because they are carrying too much weight. That's both viscerally, so around the organs, and also visible fat, subcutaneous fat. So that's what causes the disease. That's what causes the underlying insulin resistance that stops the body working how it should do, which then helps to control your blood glucose levels. However, there are the few people out there that do not develop the condition due to this. Often they can be managed much more modestly or moderately because they don't tend to not develop the disease until their latter years, maybe their 70s or 80s. And so the chances, without sounding too morbid, of developing long-term complications is very low. So often these people are at a much lower risk of problems with diabetes compared to their counterparts that are diagnosed with disease when they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s and younger age groups. Now, it is very unlikely that if you're in one of those younger age groups and get type 2 diabetes, that it's because of just genetics or any other reason other than lifestyle. It's very rare. And actually more often than not, if you are one of those people, it's because it's a misdiagnosis and it might be more of a slow burning type 1 diabetes or a genetic form of diabetes. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back to the point. So for the vast majority of people, losing weight helps to treat the underlying issue of the type 2 diabetes, so why it's there in the first place. Now, you don't need me to tell you about the variety of different methods there are out there to lose weight, some better than others. It's beyond the scope of this video to get into all of them. We have analysed different diets out there. Again, check out the blog diabetesdietguy.com. Under the diet section, we've listed out some of the most common dietary approaches and looked at the pros and cons in the context and out of the context of diabetes. But really, losing weight is one of the key treatments. In fact, it is the best treatment for type 2 diabetes. We can throw all the pills and injections at you in the world, but ultimately, losing weight will help treat the underlying disease. So start thinking about what you're eating. We'll look at some of the other points in a second. Trying to get some social support, trying to get accountable to someone, whatever it takes to help you stay on track, because we're talking about long-term sustainability here. Not just a quick fix where you lose weight for a couple of months and then put it back on. We're thinking long term. So losing weight, absolutely, starting from today, is the best thing you can do. Number 2, lower your carbohydrate intake. Now, I've blogged a lot about this subject with carbohydrates. Now, this doesn't necessarily just cure the diabetes, which is what a lot of blogs out there would lead you to believe. However, type 2 diabetes is categorized by this insulin resistance. Insulin lowers blood glucose levels. When you eat carbohydrates, the carbohydrates are turned into glucose. So essentially what you're doing is adding more glucose into the system, which another way of thinking about it might be that you're adding a bit more fuel to the fire because your body cannot cope with the additional carbohydrates going into your body, which is why medications are used. But it's not just that, because the liver has a big impact on it. People with type 2 diabetes wake up with a high glucose level in the first place. So you'll essentially have a high glucose level as your baseline, and then when you eat more carbohydrates, it just goes even higher for some people. Not everyone, mind. So one of the things that we can do to help lower blood glucose levels is actually control the amount of carbohydrate that's entering your body. In fact, the guidelines recommend only 150 grams of carbohydrates per day. Now keep in mind, that's coming from all sources. People automatically jump just to starchy foods, bread, pasta, rice, cereal, oats. But you get carbohydrates in other places. Natural sugars, for example, fruit. That is a healthy food, you want to be eating it, but you don't want to overdo it, and it does come off your carbohydrate allowance. vegetables have a small amount of carbohydrate. I wouldn't worry too much about vegetables. Essentially, the more vegetables you're eating, the better, but there is a small amount of carbohydrates there. Other things as well, like processed sugars, of course, we don't want you to be 100% on a diet. It's not sustainable. So you need to have a little bit of enjoyment there. But obviously, if you're having treats and snacks that are high in sugar quite regularly, it's going to come off your allowance, and more likely you're going to push up the glucose levels if you're susceptible to a high sugar. So it all factors in really into the different amounts of carbohydrate that you might get. You also get a very small amount from milk and yogurt. That's your natural sugars called lactose. Again, they're not a big contributor generally speaking. The big hitters tend to be processed sugar and starchy foods. So just by reducing the amount of starchy foods in the diet, which tends to be the biggest one on the dinner plate, and replacing it with lean proteins, so lower fat proteins like chicken breast, turkey breast, lean mince, lean red meat, fish, eggs, those types of foods, and also vegetables and salad, helps to lower the carbohydrate load entering your body and therefore helps to reduce your glucose levels. That's literally a change you can make from today. So just changing the distribution of your plate and what's actually on that meal will help lower your blood glucose levels. So essentially, if you're having a spaghetti bolognese, less pasta, a little bit more mince, much more vegetables. Number 3, get active. If you're familiar with my blogs and my work, you'll know I am big on physical activity. The benefits just keep going, and from a diabetes perspective, it also helps to lower those blood glucose levels. Think about it, you're physically burning up energy, and energy comes from glucose. So you're physically burning up glucose. So if you're burning it up, then it's not getting stored or just sitting in the blood, and therefore you'll have a lower blood glucose level. So it has so many benefits, not just from diabetes, but across the board. And we know that people that get active tend to have much lower incidence of various different diseases. If we could put physical activity in a pill, everyone would be on it. So getting active as possible is really encouraged. Now, obviously you don't want to overdo it. You need to do it within the realms of what you're capable of. So you might want to build up slowly. And when I'm talking about physically active, I'm talking about things as simple as going for a walk. Now, obviously, I know we live in the United Kingdom if you're watching from the UK, and the weather can be a bit rubbish in the winter. But when there's a will, there is a way. And making this a priority will help you. And I don't think it's particularly a foreign idea to think that the fitter you are, the better health you will be in. So even if you even if you have diabetes or any other condition, the fitter you can become, the more functional your body is, will only help you longer term. And you find that people that are fitter tend to have a better quality of life over the longer term. So as your fitness declines, that's when things can start to become a struggle, the health problems start to get on top of you, things can start to escalate because you're not physically able to keep that fitness up, mobility goes, weight goes on, type 2 diabetes gets worse. With that, other conditions are linked, such as heart disease, cardiovascular problems, and you can see how the process snowballs. So staying as physically active as possible for as long as possible really helps. Number 4, increase fiber. So what is this mythical nutrient called fiber? We all talk about it, but no one really seems to actually know what it is. But let me tell you, fiber is just the non-digestible part of carbohydrate foods. So essentially it helps to work our guts, keeps it in good health, but we don't actually take any nutrition from it. So it doesn't contribute to any calories. When we have generally, this is kind of an outdated term, but let's stick with it, 2 types. We have insoluble fiber, which tends to be more your grains, which tends to work the bowel. And we have soluble fiber, which is kind of more like a gel-like substance that goes around and mops up the fats and stuff that we eat, and helps to lower things like cholesterol and blood lipids. So where do we find fiber foods? So this tends to be your grains, granary foods, oats, things like seeded bread, nuts, seeds, vegetables, legumes like beans, pulses, lentils. That's the big hitters for our fibrous foods. So trying to have as much of these as possible really helps us improve our gut health, but also, amazingly, there is substantial evidence to show that the more fiber you have, the less chance you have of having high blood glucose levels, developing diseases like type 2 diabetes in the first place, cardiovascular problems, obesity, sleep apnea, and again, the list goes on and on and on. And even when we get away from those sort of lifestyle factors and look at other conditions, including cancers, which although I appreciate lifestyle does contribute to the risk of cancer, again, having an increased fiber intake reduces the risk of certain cancers, particularly things like bowel cancer. So there are so many benefits of fiber, and again, just with simple dietary switches, so moving from white bread, white pasta, white rice, those white starchy foods, anything mashed, overcooking your vegetables, not eating any fruit. Fruit is a good source of fiber. Trying to get some of those legumes into your diet can really make a difference to your overall health outcomes, and also, and amazingly, improve your blood glucose levels. So there you go. That is a really simple one that you can do. In fact, I'd say all of these are quite simple. You could literally start all of these from today. You can start your weight loss journey literally from today, and by changing the other 3 on the list, so lowering your carbohydrate intake and thus replacing that with other nutrients, will help you lose weight. Getting as physically active as possible will help you improve your type 2 diabetes and also help you lose weight. And increasing your fiber intake, the foods that are high in fiber promote things like weight loss. So, because they're low calorie, I should say, because they're low calorie, and they help to keep you feeling fuller for longer because they are more slowly absorbed. So they all feed into point 1 and they all feed into each other. Anyway guys, there you go. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe and like button. If you want to know when we're publishing videos, turn on the notification bell, and we will leave it there. Remember to check out the blog at diabetesdietguy.com, and I will see you later.